from where you sit. Well, the topic of financial freedom is usually talked about in many forums in terms of how do you secure your future. Well, today on the program, we shall be hosting the CEO of Liberty Life, and we'll be talking about financial freedom. How do you see yourself improve on how you budget, how you save for that rainy day? Let's take a quick look at his profile. Abel Munda holds a Bachelor of Science in Accounting degree from Cheney University in the United States, a Master of Business Administration and Financial Administration from Agina University in the US. He is a certified public accountant in Kenya and the USA and a member of the Institute of Certified Public Accountants of Kenya, ISPAC. Munda has a rich working experience in accounting and financial management. He has worked in various senior management positions both in the USA and Africa operations of American Life International Company, ALICO, for over 20 years. In 2005, he joined Liberty Life Assurance Kenya Limited as the finance director, and in 2006, he joined CFC Bank, where he served for 2.5 years as the finance director before being appointed the managing director for Liberty Life, previously known as CFC Life, in 2008. Munda is also a beneficiary of the Life Office Management Association, LOMA, Executive Development Program in Florida, USA, and the Swedish International Development Corporation Agency Executive Development Program in Stockholm, Sweden, of 2002. Thank you so much for joining us on the Trading Well.
Thank you, Abby.
And of course, when I was driving in, one of the key things that caught my attention was that, is it that at Liberty, the future starts here?
Yes, that's for sure. The future starts here because we take care of people's security and most importantly, provide insurance solutions for education. So when we say the future starts here, we are looking at the children, and the children are our future. So we have some very good products, education products to take care of, of the children educations in future. Should anything happen to the parents, mostly some of these are also savings products, so that even if the parents are still living, but what is important is that when these kids go to secondary school and university education, they are able to, when this policy is mature, then they are able to use that money to pay for school fees. And when you meet even students or who are now actually working, when they tell you that, what, without Liberty, I probably would not have gone to the university because my father passed on. He was the breadwinner. He was the one who used to pay school fees for us. But when that happened, when that unfortunate event happened and we thought we didn't have anything, Liberty came calling. We had a policy at Liberty and which paid for all our school fees, and there were actually 3 kids and they were able to complete their tertiary education without any problem.
Spectacular.
Yeah.
And of course, for that viewer who is watching us and saying, how big is Liberty? Because one of the biggest conversations that consumers want to know, Abel, is how solid is this organization? Talk to us about the size and the growth opportunities in the insurance industry in this day and time.
Sure, Abby. So Liberty Life Kenya is a premier life organization in this country. I mean, we've operated here for over the last 55 years. I mean, initially known by different names. We have changed names a couple of times. And now we are part of a multinational organization called Liberty, which is headquartered in Johannesburg, South Africa. But let me talk about Liberty Life Kenya first. So Liberty Life Kenya is a company of 150 employees with over 450 agents all over the country. We operate throughout the country, 9 branch offices in major towns, Eldoret, Kisii, Kisumu, Nakuru, Mombasa, Kitui, all those areas. And I have to say that in terms of, if we were just to be considered as in terms of size, I would simply say that we are part of the top 5 life insurance companies in the country. And although that keeps changing off and on depending on
the market has been very competitive.
Yeah, the market has been very, very competitive. And actually, I'll be coming to that, Abby. So in terms of strength, we are a company of roughly 25 billion Kenya shillings in assets. We, in terms of premium income, it has been growing year on year, but definitely over 4.5 billion going by last year's statistics. So we are not a small player in the market, but what excites me is that we have very good solutions for the market, and that is why we've remained relevant in this part of the world, and we continue to grow. If we didn't have good products, there's no way you could grow.
Sure.
We continue to innovate. We carry out research constantly, and we continue to innovate in order to come up with the right products for the market.
Interesting.
Yes, and to that extent, we recently launched a product called Maisha Boresha Retirement Plan, an excellent product which allows the customers to choose themselves where they want to put their funds, because the days have come when people, Kenyans, are more savvy when it comes to investments. Long gone are the days when people didn't know what they want. But now, with the advice of professionals such as us, you can actually buy this product to save for your retirement and put it in the right classes of assets that will grow the value beyond inflation, so that when that time to retire comes, which eventually will come and comes very fast, you have something to take care of you in your old age. And I always advise Kenyans that this is quite critical, because days are gone when you could rely, for example, on your children, okay, to take care of your retirement. Besides the Boresha Maisha, we also have products such as LifeVest, which is an investment product. You can either put in money at once or as a lump sum, or you can be contributing monthly, and you select the investment vehicle that you want, and which, based on even past performance, you can almost be able to predict, well, if I put my money here, how fast will it grow? So depending on your risk appetite, we know, for example, that younger people can take more risk than older people. If I'm just about to retire, I won't put my money on the stock market, or not all of it, a whole lot of it at least.
Looking at the insurance industry, penetration is pretty low compared to our counterparts like in South Africa. In South Africa, penetration is at about 16%. Kenya, we are talking of about a paltry 3%. And yet, there's a very ripe population that is actively employed that can take up these products. As someone who has been in the industry for quite a number of years, there have been a number of dynamics. We had the interest rate cap, which some say affected uptake of products, especially credit. I don't know what impact it had on pensions. But really, if you were to sit today with the young millennials and even the newly employed people, why are people not so keen on insurance?
Abby, there are a number of reasons why the penetration is paltry in this country. As you rightly mentioned, South Africa is very high. And yet in Kenya we are only about 3%. In fact, if you take the life sector only, we are just about 1%. So if you add the general insurance sector is when we come up to about 3%. But it is still minuscule. It is still so low. There are a number of reasons that have been cited. First and foremost, obviously, there are certain cultural inclinations. We know of the Arambe culture and how people come together at times of grief and how people help one another. So it's something that is cultural, historical, but it's actually waning. So I don't think that it is sustainable. And still people need to take care of themselves. You need to have bought yourself, we call them last expense policies, to take care of you, to take care of somebody's interment at the end of it, so that you don't overburden your family or your friends. But also there is the question of, as an industry, how have we come out? How do we position our products? How do we bring our products to the customers? Okay, so that there are certain practices that also don't lend themselves very well to ready purchase by the public. I know the public have sometimes blamed us in terms of our agents selling to them. People have talked of forced sales. which we don't want. At Liberty, we profess professionalism in the way we distribute our products. And I did mention that our people are very well trained, both staff and agents, to be able to explain to you exactly so that you can see the need. I know there's the old adage that insurance is sold and not bought. But nonetheless, somebody should be able to explain to you in a compelling way why you should buy a certain product. I also can cite the issue of awareness. So how aware are people, about insurance products? So I think there are a couple of reasons, and as an organization, our strategy is to be able to reach the customer in a more innovative fashion. So whether it is distribution through digital network, whether it is distribution through, let me talk of the internet, for example, because we know that the uptake of technology also in Kenya is quite high. A lot of Kenyans now are hooked on
social media.
On social media.
Yes.
They reference quite a bit the social media. They use the smartphones quite a bit. I think the smartphone penetration is already at around 55-60%, and actually expected to be at over 80% in another 2 or 3 years. So you can see that the level of penetration by smartphone is a lot, and there are gadgets, there are applications, for example, that you can use. So somebody can easily access you through the smartphone, both for service and even for purchase of a product. We are urbanizing at a very fast rate, and with urbanization comes modernity. And with modernity, all those traditional structures will collapse.
Yes.
They will definitely collapse. When I look at even where I grew up, which was in the rural area, but in that rural town, when I look at the transformation that has taken place, it's amazing. Every time I go there, it's amazing. It has become cosmopolitan. People have settled there from everywhere. So you can see that whereas before your neighbor traditionally would have been that next of kin, now you are finding yourself, you are neighboring somebody else who maybe if something should happen to you guys, maybe they would care less, you don't know. But this is the essence of insurance. Protect yourself, protect your family, and protect your family's future by protecting your greatest asset, which is your life.
All right.
Yes.
And the future is bright with Liberty.
The future is very bright with Liberty. At Liberty, we change people's lives positively by making their financial freedom possible. That is what we profess. That is what our products are supposed to do. And that is why we continue to innovate to come up with superior products. One of the things that we've also sought to do is to make sure that we've elevated the level of our customer service. Second to none. And we've consistently won accolades because of this, as being the best company in customer service. The Think Business Awards, several years running. I know last year's we were runners up. The year before that we were #1. So it keeps changing like that. But the essence of it, or what it shows, is that we are committed as a company to very high standards of customer service.
All right.
And what we want to really do now is to enable the customers to even self-service. Customers don't even need to come to our offices. You should be able to access us on the web, on the internet, and service yourself. Unless it is very necessary, then you come or
For
you
an
call
intermediary.
us. Yes.
All right.
Or you can actually access the intermediary.
All right.
Yeah.
And finally, Bwana Abel, as we look at the insurance industry in totality, of course, there are still challenges when it comes to governance and issues to do with fraudulent claims, which have dented books of different institutions. And from a regulation standpoint, what do you think needs to happen if you are able to see this industry rise and compete with its peers across Africa? In brief, as we wrap up.
Abi, I think one of the key things in tackling fraud is quick and expeditious prosecution. I think the system to some extent has failed us in that, I mean, even as in our own case, I can talk about our own case where there are a number of fraudulent cases that we are pursuing, but you find that that process of prosecution is so lengthy. I mean, 10 years down the road and we are still going to court on a case. That should not be happening. That should not be happening. So immediate prosecution of these culprits is one of the ways to deal with this thing. I mean, we obviously have governance structures and quite strong controls that prevent fraud. And as a consequence of that, I mean, our fraud levels is very low. And I know that the industry suffers hugely from this. And I think one of the ways, obviously, if you look at the health area, which I think is possibly the area with the biggest risk of fraud, the health insurance. Yeah. So a number of companies have instituted certain strict controls to be able to detect fraud and therefore stop it. And you have to use technology to do this. And that is what I would encourage really the industry to adopt, is to use technology to try and stop fraud. Obviously, fraud is not possible without collusion. So there is always collusion, whether it is the service providers, whether it is the company, there is always that collusion. And my appeal again is to that us as Kenyans, we must stop that. Because the culture of fraud cannot support a country's development. It just pulls us backwards. So whether you are a doctor or whether you are a mechanic or a body shop, whatever it is, and you are handling a claims case, there is no need for there to be a collusion so that the company is charged what is not due. Key to it is to try and fight it through immediate prosecution and jailing on your conviction of these culprits. That will help a lot because it will send the right message. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Abel Munda, for your time.
Thank you, Abby.
I appreciate it
as well.
And I will definitely be looking at the numbers to see how the industry keeps on growing.
Yeah, please do.
Thank you so much.
And we welcome you here anytime.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, we've been speaking there to Abel Munda, who is the CEO and MD of Liberty Life Kenya, just shedding some light into the insurance industry, and of course is very passionate about the millennials, saying this is an area that many companies can reap big returns. And of course, that's where we bring it to a close on the interview segment. Let's take a quick look at our market analysis for this week.
I think for Bamburi, it's a unique story, I would say. If you look at it on a long-term perspective, there's still value in the company.
It's time for the market analysis for this week, and I'm joined by Elizabeth Wangeshi, who is the head of research at Nairobi Securities. Many thanks for joining us.
Thank you for hosting me.
And Elizabeth, it has been an interesting time at the stock exchange for simply two reasons. The NSE 20 has been edging upwards. It's now at 3,005 points, 0.16. And of course, we've also seen the Kenyan shilling. It's depreciating over time. What's happening?
Well, I would say it's the confidence. We've seen more activities in the market. So increased activity from foreign and also local. And also looking at the environment you're operating at on a macroeconomic aspect, I think we are at a very good position.
All right.
Yes.
And many would argue that when we see the shilling depreciating, it's sort of good news, especially when it comes to imports.
Yes.
Yeah.
So yes, I would say it's a very good thing. And if you look at it even previously in 2018, how the shilling was, where it was at, I would say because of the increasing remittances that you're seeing, and with the extension of the tax amnesty in 2019, then you'd especially see the shilling strengthening against the dollar. Yeah.
Interesting insights there. And of course, we are still trailing to see how the shilling will perform. Will it cross from 100 coming to 90s? It's all but a question of time, isn't it?
Yes.
All right. And of course, let's take a quick look at some of the top gainers this week, Elizabeth. I'm seeing Longhorn Publishers is one of the top gainers. It's at it's up by 9.16%, and of course, a lot of activity in the publishing sector.
Yes. So I would attribute this from a local perspective. Position is they released their half-year results recently, and the results were very impressive. If you looked at how the sales are growing, and also the markets that they've invested in, they're yielding fruits. So overall, now investors have started accumulating on the stock, and it's just because of the confidence in terms of when you look at the numbers.
All right.
Yes.
And of course, the educational reforms have also played a key role.
Yes,
in
the reforms, the new program. So in terms of sales, if you see how the sales, the percentage increase year on year was, I would attribute it to that.
All right.
Yes.
And Liz, looking at another stock this week, we are seeing Bamburi Cement. The stock is up by 5.9%. And the share price is at actually 139 shillings. And of course, the cement industry did experience a slowdown last year in the build-up to the election. But we're still seeing these stocks performing pretty well since the year kicked off, and even late last year.
Yes, so I think for Bamburi, it's a unique story, I would say. If you look at it on a long-term perspective, there's still value in the company. They gave a profit warning for their expected full year 2018 numbers.
Coming actually to that.
Yes. So even with that, we're still continuing to see increased activity even from the foreign desk. So if you look at the pricing where it's currently trading at and where it's fairly valued at, there's more room even for a more increase in the share price. So if you look at even the progress they are doing in terms of the capacity expansions that they did recently in Kenya and Uganda, that will unlock value in the medium term.
All right.
Yes.
And still with the matters, the cement industry, there's of course the big four, which majority of these cement manufacturers are saying it's going to really unlock a lot of potential in the market, especially if it kicks off.
Yes, I believe with now the big for the housing project, especially because if you look at even Bamburi's strategy on increasing their market share on the retail side, I think with that it will position them even better. If you look at the strength of the cement that they produce compared to other competitors, it definitely gives them that leverage. So with the housing coming up under the big four, the manufacturing side also, it's the right time for the company, I would say. Yes.
Interesting. And Liz, let's shift gears a bit and look at the top losers this week. Well, I'm seeing some very interesting stocks. Top on the list, East Africa Breweries. The stock is actually down by 11.26%. And of course, about 3 weeks ago, they released their results, and they had some very impressive numbers, if I remember.
Yes, so I would say before even the announcement of the half-year 2019 results, we had seen a rally on the stock. And after the impressive results where they posted a growth in their bottom line, and where we saw even Kenya, Uganda and Tanzania growing by double digits, I think from that, investors really accumulated on the stock, so the price really went up. So right now it's more of repricing, but overall the counter still has more attractive returns. If you look at the pricing of where it is, it's really undervalued. So it's more of a repricing, the demand and supply. So in the medium term, we would expect to see more interest on the company.
Indeed. And
Yes.
Wangeshi, they recently opened one of the largest sorghum plants in Kisumu County.
Kisumu.
Yeah.
Yes, so with that, definitely would expect to see the sales growing. As NIC Securities, we expect to see sales growing by over 9% for the full year 19. And if you look at it, the Kisumu plant, in terms of now volume, senator volumes, it will definitely increase. Though it's a low margin business, now the volume will be able to cater for that. So we are very confident in terms of the sales potential.
So does that mean some good news to sorghum farmers?
Yes, it definitely means more even in terms of employment, and definitely surrounding the community. They'll be able to benefit from that plant.
All right.
Yes.
Quite interesting.
Yes.
Liz, we have to bring it to a close at that point. So we really appreciate your sentiments on this market statistics and just breaking it down for us. We really appreciate that.
Thank you very much.
Well, we've been speaking there to Elizabeth Wangeshi from NIC Securities. We now want to take you to our next segment, and that is Markets 101 for this week. Well, it's time now for my favorite segment, and that is Question on the Streets. For this week, we're getting a question from our social media platforms. And I have a question here from Imran Otieno, who's asking, Liz, what is insider trading? Over to you, Liz.
Thank you. Insider trading is the practice of trading on a stock after obtaining confidential information. An example would be, assume you get information that company A and company B is merging, and that is information that is not yet out in the public. You trade on the stock in the market, and now you benefit on the profits after trading on that. So a good example and a recent case is the ongoing case on Ken Okobil.
Wow, interesting. Thank you so much. And we do appreciate your feedback as always. Well, it's time now for us to take you down memory lane, and that is our historical fact for this week. Well, that brings us to a close for this week's episode of The Trading Bell. And of course, quite some insightful conversations there with Abel Munda on the future of the insurance industry, as well as some of the challenges that continue to bedevil the sector. Well, Liz, it's time for us to say bye-bye to our viewers.
Thank you very much.
All right. Well, that's where we bring it to a close. And of course, keep engaging with us on our social media platforms. Feel free to send us your feedback on any topic you'd like us to discuss and any question you might have that touches on these numbers. Well, my name is Agina. Thank you so much for your time and have a lovely weekend ahead.